And we are recording. We'll give people a few more minutes to arrive, get settled in, and we'll get started here shortly. Indira, did you want to make the language justice statement before we get started?
Sure thing. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Indira Guzman, and I'm here with the Community Language Co-op. And this evening, the organizers of this event have made a commitment to language justice. What that means is that we want everyone to engage and participate in the language of their heart. So in a second, we're going to turn on interpretation. You will see an icon on the bottom of the screen that says interpretation. Make sure you select the language that you prefer to engage in. I will be interpreting simultaneously from English to Spanish or vice versa. I'm going to repeat this in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking friends, and then we'll get started. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Indira Guzmán y estoy aquí con la Community Language Co-op. Y esta noche los organizadores de este evento han hecho un compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje. Lo que esto significa es que queremos que todos participen en el idioma de su corazón o en el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos. En un segundo vamos a aprender la interpretación. Usted verá un icono que dice interpretación en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Por favor, haga clic ese icono y seleccione el idioma en el que prefiere participar. Si usted está en su celular o en su tablet, por favor busque la opción de más o los 3 puntitos y ahí encontrará la función de interpretación. Si tiene preguntas, por favor, comuníquense conmigo por medio de chat. Muchas gracias. Let's go ahead and turn on interpretation.
All right. With that, I have turned on interpretation, and I will share my screen again. All right. Well, it's 6:03 and let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I know we have some city council members in attendance tonight, so I'd like to thank them for taking the time and joining us and acknowledging that. Tonight, you in the community have an opportunity to provide input and weigh in from the beginning on the big picture framework for the 155-acre Park Hill Golf Course site. We have 3 high-level concepts that we will have Bill and Ryan from Dick Studio introduce and walk through with you before we break out into smaller group discussions, where your comments will be recorded real time by staff facilitators. We'll come back together around 7 p.m. and do a breakout group report back where the community can hear firsthand highlights from what the other group's discussions were. We'll end by talking about next steps and how we'll use what we heard from you tonight and incorporate those as we refine those into a singular framework concept. So again, tonight is about getting your feedback on the 3 initial framework concepts. These are drafts and they're just a starting point. If there are questions more related to the process, the prevailing vision, or the visioning process, or anything else, I would encourage you to go to the project website. You'll find a lot of resources and background there, as well as a link to submit questions to the project team, and we'll follow up with you. During the breakout rooms, we can answer quick questions, but we want to do our best to reserve the time to hear from the attendees about the concepts. And just so you know, the meeting is being recorded and will be published later on the city's website. So before we begin tonight, just a few reminders for when we move into the breakout groups and have discussions, just to make room for everyone, allow those in your group the opportunity to participate and share their opinions. Everyone is welcome to express their views tonight, and we want to hear input from all. Please be respectful and inclusive when you're having your discussions tonight. And again, we're not trying to pick one of these framework concepts over the other. It's not all or nothing. You know, it's very likely elements will be included as we continue to refine these concepts. We just really want to hear your thoughts on each of them. Also, if you need to briefly step away and take care of your needs or your family's needs, please feel empowered to do so. And we'll do our best to catch you back up to speed when you rejoin the group. Finally, as a heads up, when you exit the meeting this evening, a short demographic survey will pop up on your screen. It'll only take a minute, and it will help us to know who we were hearing from at this workshop. So I just want to give you a heads up what's coming down the pipeline for you, and I encourage you to take a few minutes and fill that out. So before we hand it over to Bill and Ryan, our design professionals from Dig Studio, for the walkthrough the draft 3 initial framework concepts, I'd like to recap for everyone just how we got here. Starting early last year, we embarked on a visioning process that listened to what residents had to say about the future of the Park Hill Golf Course property. The process sought to understand what the shared community priorities were for the site and determine if there were community support for the property to be reverted back to a private 18-hole golf course, or if the community supported a mix of uses on this 155-acre privately owned property. Through surveys, outreach from the community navigator, comments, emails, and input from the community steering committee, residents who engaged in the visioning process expressed the most support for these shared priorities you see here, which included a significantly sized park and other community gathering places, a desire to see an oversight board or committee to continue this work, need to improve environmental community health with an emphasis on the tree canopy, supporting youth recreation. Affordable housing was a clear priority to include on the future Park Hill Golf Course site, especially including for sale units. We heard that loud and clear. We heard that there was support from for some commercial uses on the site, spots for local business, and the importance of mitigating involuntary displacement were also important. So with that, we're now transitioning, and we're actually fully in the area plan process, where we'll continue to build on the foundational work this year and refine these prevailing vision elements into a framework concept along with more detailed land use recommendations. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Bill and Ryan to discuss the site framework concepts and do a brief walkthrough.
Great. Thanks, Courtney. Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Bill Vitek. I'm a principal with Dig Studio. We're part of the David Evans team working on this project with the city. And our focus in particular is on the land use planning portion of the overall project. And as Courtney said, and we probably won't say this enough tonight, these are high-level concept alternatives that we want to share with you. We got some preliminary feedback from the steering committee a couple weeks ago, and we fully understand that there are definitely more detailed issues that we will get into as the plans continue to evolve, with such things as traffic studies, easements, utilities, et cetera. But those will come, we're at a high level, and those will come as we refine our process and move into more detailed planning and narrowing of these alternatives as we move forward together. So tonight, we really need your input, your broader public input to help shape a community-driven plan. The 3 alternatives that we're going to share with you have some elements and components that are in common. For example, that come from the prevailing vision that Courtney just mentioned, such as a large park, neighborhood serving retail, and a significant amount of for sale and rentable housing. What's different about the 3 alternatives that you'll see in just a minute are the arrangement of these items on the property. For example, you'll see some instances where 38th Avenue goes through all the way through the site. There's a plan where it goes through in an indirect way. There's a plan where it doesn't go through at all. The same with the neighborhood serving retail. You'll see locations of it at 40th. Another plan has it at 38th. Another plan has it at 35th. And it's purposeful kind of in having these alternatives, get your feedback as to where the community thinks the best location and the best arrangement of these uses, both transportation, mobility, land use, and the park space come together on the overall property. there are some differences that you'll see relative to the land uses adjacent to existing residential property and residential and commercial property edges. And again, we need your feedback and input on that. So this will continue to be refined. The reality is, having done this for many, many years, that the final plan will be probably a combination of elements of all of these. But it's very important to get your input to help shape that plan which will arrive through together as part of this process. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Sotorakis now from our office, and he's going to run you through the detail of these three concept plan alternatives. Ryan?
Great, thanks, Bill. Thanks, Courtney, as well. And thank you all for attending again. This is, just to reiterate, your opportunity to give feedback on these very high-level concepts. So I don't know if I can control to the next slide. There we go, great. So I will walk through these quickly, and then there will be opportunity in the breakout rooms to go into more detail about these and give your feedback on what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see different. So the first high-level alternative focuses on a Greenway type park system running through the center of the site from southwest to northeast. A couple of things to point out about this option. This would preserve the most high-value trees on the site through an inventory that was conducted last year with the city forester. This also follows the existing drainage path running north towards the regional detention site at the north end in the lighter green. An important thing to notice about each of these is where not only the shape and size of the park space, but where a mixed-use commercial hub may exist. So in this alternative, it's to the north at 40th and Colorado, closer to the transit station on the A line. Another thing to point out on all of these is the potential for future bikeway connections coming from the 39th Avenue Greenway that is currently just a couple of blocks to the west of the site that could potentially connect to both the rail station as well as south to 38th and then along 38th Avenue into the site. Each option also points out future 303 Artway route that rather than follow Colorado Boulevard, which is big and busy, could come into the site and be a really great amenity and added feature to future park space. So next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Okay. So second alternative here would be more of a focus, not a focus, but extending the grid of the city and the adjacent neighborhoods into the site from the west, centering a community commercial hub more at 38th and Colorado. And in addition to the bikeway connection as well, you can see the 303 Artway could extend down Albion Street through the site as well to the south. This option, I didn't say this about the last one, I should have pointed out, in terms of the size of park space, the previous option was, I believe, around 70 to 75 acres of park space. And this, keep in mind, for all three of these, this does not include the regional detention in light green. So this is just the darker green park space. This could have a variety of amenities and programming throughout. This second option is larger at 80 to 85 acres of park space, not including the regional detention. And again, the commercial, mixed-use commercial hub more in the center at 38th in Colorado. Next slide. And alternative three, as you can see, quite a bit different here. The community commercial, mixed-use commercial hub to the south at 35th in Colorado. This option, again, these names are sort of working names for just as a way to identify the different options, but the Parkways option, important things to note about this is that the option for 38th Avenue to extend through the site, and as well as Albion Street to extend north to south through the site, mixed use commercial at the south, and the entire eastern half of the site being park space. Next slide. And this is where we can see all three sort of side by side, which is helpful to kind of see the differences in the framework from each option. And I think I'll let Bill add anything that he may want to add about these, but again, we'll go into our breakout rooms where we get more in depth about each of these with your group and discuss pros and cons to each of the options.
Yeah, Ryan, the only thing that I would add is that the color designations of the land use, the orange and the red, are identifying predominantly, the orange is identifying predominantly residential use. It might have some type of ground floor activated retail, but it'd be very, small levels of retail, like you see in a lot of residential developments today, where you have some ground floor activation uses on the street level. The red is more of the commercial serving neighborhood retail, so the potential for grocery store and other larger, certainly not large format big box uses, but certainly the opportunity for other neighborhood serving retail establishments and hopefully local retail serving establishments in the red color. So I just wanted to identify what those two colors meant. And then also you can see very faintly on the drawing, there are these concentric circles that radiate from the 40th and Colorado light rail stop. Those are identifying the, in a sense, kind of the walk shed from the transit stop itself. So you can see that it kind of extends from the rail station down to about 38th Avenue in terms of its radius, in terms of its walkability, kind of that distance where most people would walk as opposed to, getting in a car, or and that's just kind of a planning distance parameter that we use from a light rail location.
Yep, thanks, Bill.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So with that, we'll move into the breakout groups. As was mentioned in the opening, the purpose of the workshop is to hear from you and to get your comments and ideas about these three initial draft framework concepts. Shortly, you'll be automatically moved into breakout groups, which are randomly assigned. In the breakout room, you'll spend about 15 minutes discussing each of the three concepts as a group. A staff facilitator will be sharing their screen and taking notes on your comments on each of the site plans real time. With that in mind, just please be concise with your comments to ensure everyone has a chance to speak. The facilitator in the room will also ask for a volunteer to do a 1-minute highlight report out when we come back together. That report out doesn't have to cover everything, just some high-level themes. Wanted to give you an idea of where we're going after the breakout group. So this will be about a 45-minute session, and then we'll come back. So with that, I am going to attempt to open the breakout rooms, and you'll be whisked away into the breakout rooms. If you aren't automatically put in one, sit tight, and I will place you in one very shortly. So that, I'm opening all rooms.